what is Section 61? When you are granted a new lease, you're granted a new lease of a new term of the equal to the existing unexpired term plus 90 years. There is a mandatory right of the landlord under that lease to claim possession at the end of the term date of the existing term. So if you've got 10 years unexpired and you get 90-year lease extension, so you think you've got a 100-year term, in fact, the landlord can come along in 10 years' time and claim possession of your flat in certain circumstances. But what the landlord has to prove is that it intends to demolish or reconstruct or carry out substantial works of construction on the whole or a substantial part of any premises in which the flat is contained, and you couldn't do so without getting possession. So this is probably why the need to show you're doing work on a substantial part of the premises in which the flat is contained. That's why this really hasn't happened very much. Because if you have a building, a block of, say, 10 flats, and you say, well, you think, all right, how can I get back possession? I'll come up with a scheme, I'll knock 2 flats into 1. That is not substantial enough. You've got to show it's worked to a substantial part of the premises. So if you've got 10 flats and they're all let on long leases, how on earth are you going to do it? So it can work if you've got a case where you've got, say, and this does happen, 6 flats, 3 controlled by one person, 3 controlled by somebody else. You want to well, who owns the freehold, and if you want to get possession of the others, well, if you control the other 3 flats, you can put that sort of scheme together. But it is not one that, as far as I'm aware, it hasn't resulted in a reported court decision. So in the old days, when it was profitable to convert 3 flats back into a house and you get £1 million uplift in value, you could buy the lessee out, the value of his flat, but you didn't have to pay him any share of the uplift in value. So, and that remains the case. So it's something that, in theory, this ought to make your 100-year lease less valuable than a nice shiny new one, because if the landlord's actually got the right to turn up in 10 years' time and turf you out, it must be worth less, logically. But when you look for evidence of that, the cases I've done, there's simply no evidence of it. And I think it partly comes back to lack of buyer awareness and lack of warnings from conveyancing solicitors, because people just happily, gaily buy all these leases and think they're there for 100 years and they've got no right to be disturbed. So who knows? It's there. It's a potential opportunity for landlords, but at the moment rarely used.